All right, everyone, it's me, it's JoJo Napoli, and I'm in the kitchen. And as you can see, I'm showing you here the ingredients of my beautiful Escarole soup with veal meatballs. So let's get right to it. There's two parts to this recipe, this soup recipe. Part of it is preparing the soup itself, and then while the soup is simmering, we're going to prepare the meatballs, and then once it's bubbling and it's nice and warm and a little wilted, at the end we throw the meatballs in. Okay, so let's start with the soup part, and here we have the Trinity, Holy Trinity, which is onions, carrots, and celery. We're going to get some good olive oil. We're going to turn on our pot, and we don't want to cook the cap, but we're going to put a little bit, I would say 2 tablespoons of good olive oil in the pot. That's going to simmer up and get warm, and we're going to put in our Trinity, and let's mix that around. And we're going to just get those flavors molded together. And what I'm going to do is, as I do the ingredients, I'll layer it with some seasoning, right? And the seasoning is simple. A little cracked black pepper. And we got some nice sea salt. A little bit of salt. I don't like my soup too salty. You could always add salt. And I didn't have fresh garlic that I was happy with, so I'm going to use garlic powder today, and I'm going to use about, I would say, a half a teaspoon, depending. If you like it really garlicky, it could be as much as a teaspoon of garlic powder. And I'm going to have that sizzling around. And while I do that, we're going to start it off with some chicken broth, collagen. And my mother always used to say, before you open a can, clean off the top. I just clean it off a little bit, because you don't know where these cans were laying around. Oh, that's sizzling nice. Yeah, this is the basis for the soup, right? The carrots, the celery, the onions coming all together. And then what we'll do is we make 2, 3, and then we vent it on the other side, because it'll get, if you don't vent it, it doesn't come out. And then we just pour this in. 48 ounces, a cup is 8 ounces, so it's 6 cups. But that's good because it stops it from like boiling and bubbling and all of that fine stuff. And then we have 1 head of escarole, which I cleaned really nice. You gotta clean the escarole because there could be sand in there. So I literally take off the base of the escarole and then clean 1 leaf at a time under the cold water. And then I'm gonna just add that in here. There's really no rocket scientry here. This is just simple home cooking. And then this is going to wilt down. It looks like a lot. And then I could add water if I want. There'll be enough flavor in the stock that if I need more liquid to create the soup, I'll add more water later. I probably will add about 4 to 6 cups of water, depending how much water evaporates. And that's it. So that's going to simmer. And now we're going to set up for our veal meatballs. And the veal meatballs are going to be very simple. So as you can see, I got about 1.25 pounds of ground veal. Let's clean up here. I got about 1.25 pounds of ground veal. I have 2 slices of regular white bread, and I take off the crust around the end of the, sliced white bread, and I'm gonna soak that a little bit in. I happen to have some half and half, so this makes the meatballs a little bit softer and not as hard, And then I have, as you can see, about 1/2 cup of coarsely chopped parsley, and I'm going to add that in there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of garlic powder. I could have put in some chopped onion. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, that's about 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Let's put some cracked black pepper, about maybe 1/2 teaspoon of cracked black pepper, and about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So you see what I mean? All the layers have to get their own seasoning, because if you just season at the beginning and then as you add layers, you don't continue to season to service that volume of whatever it is you're adding, what happens is it could get bland, right? So everything gets seasoned separately, and that's it. And then we're going to use the hands here, and we're going to make this all go together. And from my spaghetti and meatball episode, that one of the things I'm doing differently here for these little veal meatballs is I'm not putting egg in there like I did in the regular meatballs for the Sunday sauce. I put egg in there. I'm not putting it in here. And the other thing is I'm not putting any kind of pecorino romano or locatelli cheese, grated cheese, parmesan. I'm not putting anything like that in there. These are pretty simple, and I want these to be a little meatier and not meatball-y per se, because they are going to float around in the soup. And that's it. And from my meatball recipe that the way I mix this is I fold it. I don't want to squeeze it in my hands because it changes the consistency of the meat. And then what we do, and I'm just going to quickly just wash my hands to start it off, and then we can come back. And I'm just going to rinse my hands to get them a little wet. And then what we're going to do is we make a template. Now these are small. This is a labor of love. So that's it. That's about the size of them, even smaller. And I'm going to put these in here. And there's my template. You could see it. And then I'm going to make as many as I can. I don't know. And then I'll dump them in the soup and let that cook all together, and we're going to enjoy a delicious meal. So that's about it for now, and I'll be back when I'm putting the meatballs in the broth. Okay, we're back, and as you can see, the meatballs, all the little veal meatballs are done, and it's different sizes. I got a couple of bonus big ones in there, and the soup is simmering, and it's hot enough to put these in. So I'm going to carefully put them in, a couple at a time, right in the soup like that, and they'll hold together nicely. You just have to be careful when you stir them that you don't break them up in the beginning until they get, a little bit cooked, and then they'll hold up nicely. So I'm putting them in nice and nice, and you can see they're all crooked. You know me with meatballs, they can't be perfect absolute 360-degree models. They have to be a little crooked, a little rustic, and it adds to the character of the dish when we plate it. And yeah, this is going to be a lot of meatballs in here. I'll end up adding water just to bulk it up and make it a little more soupy. And that's it. Once I get it back to a boil, it's going to simmer for about a half hour. And then we'll be back to plate it, and we'll try it out, and we'll be able to share it with you. So we'll be back shortly. All right, we're back, and we're going to plate some, and we're going to taste it. Okay, so let's get a ladle. And you could see it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous soup. And I'm going to take a little bit. I put a couple of teaspoons of tomato paste in the broth just to give it that pinkish color. And so it's not too white. It gives it a little bit of a pink. I have a little bit of Locatelli Romano cheese I'm going to sprinkle on top while it's cooling off. And I could put a little hot sauce in there, but I'm not going to do it for the tasting. And then let's take a little bit of that, a little bit of escarole, a carrot. There we go. Let's try it out. Wow. Look at that. The earthiness of the escarole with the sweetness of the carrot and the onions. Wow. Look at that. Wow. Another successful dish by JoJo Napoli, Captain of the Kitchen. And you know, if there's anything video worthy in here in the kitchen, I'll cook it later.